What's going on, Dub Nation? Smitty here from Warriors Today by Chat Sports, and today we're covering a pretty somber topic, but it's why Steph Curry must demand a trade from the Golden State Warriors after their failures to surround him with supporting talent to contend in the Western Conference this NBA offseason. Now, I want to hear from you guys before we get into why this all should go down and why Steph needs to prioritize winning in the later stages of his career. Do you think the Warriors front office has failed Stephen Curry here this offseason, surrounding him with talent all the way dating back to when they won the championship in 2022? If you think they have, type Y for yes down in the comments section. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. But if you think that the Warriors front office has done a fine job surrounding Steph Curry with talent, type N for no down in the comments section. I want to get a pulse on Dub Nation. So I know this is pretty self-explanatory. I don't even know why I threw this graphic up. But Steph Curry's Golden State Warriors resume is extensive, to say the least. Four-time NBA champion, two-time MVP, one of them being unanimous. The Golden State Warriors all-time leader in many stat categories. I didn't even know he was the leader in this many. Games played, coincidentally minutes played, then points, assists, three-pointers made, I think field goals made as well, steals, win shares, doesn't matter. Steph Curry is the all-time franchise leader in basically every category that matters in the basketball court. And his entire career with the Golden State Warriors, he's maintained a warrior-for-life stance. He's put his all into this franchise. He's become this franchise. If you think about the Golden State Warriors, just in a broad sense, the first thing you think of is Stephen Curry. So why have they not honored him and honored what they've done, making his team here, his organization, the Golden State Warriors, a global brand by him being a part of it? How are they not honoring him? Why are they not honoring him? It's unfortunate. I think he should demand a trade from Golden State to prioritize winning. So I have 5 reasons why he should do so. The first one, Golden State paid trash players. Let's be honest here. They paid Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green big time money. And yes, down the line, in a couple of years from now, the figures on these contracts won't look too bad comparatively to how the salary cap looks and the percentages that these contracts will be of Golden State Warriors salary cap. But they paid these guys $200 million. Andrew Wiggins, they gave him 1 year sample size after being a losing basketball player for the majority of his career up to that point. He had 1 good year, played excellent defense, don't get me wrong, was a vital part. Some people even argue that he was the second best player on Golden State's 2022 championship team. They decided to give him $110 million. They decided to give it Draymond Green, who is, above the age of 30 at this point. I think well above the age of 30 when they gave him the deal. 4 years, $100 million. And a note down here, each of these contracts began taking effect in 2023-24. So these guys each have 3 years left on their deals, and Golden State's kind of tied up financially because of it. If you look at what these two guys did last year, nothing jumps off the page. Obviously, Andrew Wiggins was a net negative on the court, maybe the worst 13-point-per-game scorer in NBA history last year, Andrew Wiggins. Terrible efficiencies. Obviously, Draymond Green keeping you consistent with that triple single. Not, the three-point percentage for Green, yeah, it looks good, but the volume's super low. And Andrew Wiggins, his calling card, like I said, was defense for that 22 championship run. He fell off a cliff defensively last season, and the Warriors' defense as a whole suffered because of it. And if you're thinking about moving one of these two players potentially to kind of salvage this Warriors roster, help them financially, and help surround Steph with more talent, it's not really possible, right? Because Draymond Green, his value to Golden State exceeds his value anywhere else across the NBA. You're not going to get equal trade compensation back for a Draymond Green when he kind of doesn't really have much value around the league unless he's in a Golden State Warriors uniform. And Andrew Wiggins' decline has basically made him a salary-filling trade piece. It doesn't seem like you're trading Andrew Wiggins and potentially getting a whole crop of assets back in a deal. You're including Andrew Wiggins in a potential deal to match salaries and get a big fish back to the Golden State Warriors. You're not getting anything for Andrew Wiggins, so you're tied up financially with both of these guys. And this kind of flows into my number 2 reason why Steph Curry should want out, is they let Klay Thompson walk in free agency, just leave. I understand they got stuff back in a trade for him, but they let Klay Thompson go. They broke up the Splash Bros. And I'm not saying that Klay Thompson was necessarily a good starting option, a good secondary scorer next to Steph Curry at this point in his career. But you broke up the Splash Bros. And That's just something that is going to look weird to all Golden State fans. It's going to feel weird to Steph Curry. He mentioned that it's going to be weird, and it still hasn't really set in yet. Not going to set in until he steps foot back in the Chase Center this season. So you get rid of Klay Thompson. You don't get much back for him. And it's unfortunate because actually over the last quarter of the season, he was looking pretty good. 20 points per game, 46% from the field, 41% from three. You know that volume's high. You know he's not going to give you much on the rebounding or the facilitating area of things. But he was a knockdown shooter for the last 22 games of his career, and it's unfortunate that many fans are going to be left with the 0 for 10 taste in their mouth that Klay Thompson left against the Sacramento Kings in the play-in. But by paying Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins big money, you made it financially irresponsible to pay Klay. Yeah, they offered him $20 million a year, and he ended up taking less with the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously got the extra year in there on a 3-year contract. But now you're left with two worse players that you decided to pay other than the second best player that you won 4 championships with. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't seem like they're prioritizing what Steph would have wanted. I'm sure Steph would have wanted Klay to stay long term. He's vocalized many times that he wanted him, Draymond, and Klay to ride off into the sunset together. It's unfortunate that Golden State didn't make that happen for them. Do you wish the Warriors re-signed Klay Thompson? Let me know. Is the grass greener on Golden State's side, or do you wish Golden State re-sign Klay Thompson, let Steph, Draymond, and Klay ride out into the sunset together? Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Number 3 on why Steph should want out of Golden State is they missed on surrounding him with big-time talent. They missed on the only trade targets that were a priority for them this summer. The only two players, really, that gave Golden State an opportunity to become a bona fide playoff team, putting them closer to contention in the Western Conference. The first one, obviously, was Paul George. Back in late June, even before free agency, it was kind of set in stone that Paul George would agree to join the Golden State Warriors if LA would trade him to there. It didn't happen. It did not happen, and LA played hardball with the Warriors after reports came out of multiple trade packages. Golden State was trying to work with the Clippers to compensate them fairly for Paul George. They even offered up Jonathan Kuminga, according to some reports. And LA said, no, we're not sending you in-state. We're not sending you in-division to go play for our rival Warriors. He ends up signing with the Philadelphia 76ers. And Golden State can't do too much about that. It's not their fault entirely. However, I can blame them. I can disagree with how they handled Lauri Markkanen. It's absolutely asinine, mind-boggling to me that they would not give up Brandon Podziemski in a deal for Lauri Markkanen. I think Lauri Markkanen is a stud. Maybe I overrate him. Maybe I think higher of him than you guys do in the comments section. But this would have been a perfect fit for Golden State. As far as floor spacers go, as far as a guy who can go protect the rim at 7 feet tall, and a guy who can run a pick and pop with Stephen Curry, you're not finding much better in the NBA than Lauri Markkanen. And he's coming off 2 back-to-back seasons where he's averaging 23 points plus, and he's coming off an all-star campaign. I don't know how you wouldn't want Golden State to acquire this guy, sending Brandon Podziemski, who I think is fairly replaceable down the line, but I do see the upside in him as a really good player down the line. I just don't understand how you don't trade a backup point guard for Lauri Markkanen. And how is this the final deal that you send over to the Utah Jazz? I know final deal is kind of odd because I don't think we ever got another trade package that was ever reported, but it was centered around Moses Moody. Do you really think that Danny Ainge was going to entertain a package for Lauri Markkanen where the only player that he was getting back was Moses Moody? Maybe Gary Payton Jr., or Gary Payton II, and Kevon Looney for salary filler? Absolutely not. Yes, you were going to offer him your entire crop of picks, but at the end of the day, you didn't present Utah with a package that was good enough for Lauri Markkanen. And you weren't even really close, in my opinion. And what you got instead of Paul George or Lauri Markkanen, you got Buddy Hield to kind of quasi-replace Klay Thompson. Maybe DeAnthony Melton kind of moneyballs that in there with his energy, his spark on both ends of the floor, Buddy Hield's three-point shooting threat. And then you got Kyle Anderson to kind of help be that Draymond Green bridge, take his role when he's off the floor, and be a good facilitator at the high post, kicking out the shooters and making the right basketball plays. Listen, I'll say it before. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This roster, as currently constructed, is not a playoff team. Let's call a spade a spade. Golden State's not making the playoffs with this roster. Play-ins with this group would be a success, actually, in my opinion. You got worse from last year. What's to say that the free agency pickups that you made help your chances of gaining a higher seed in the Western Conference? You were a 9 seed last year. Other teams got better. Younger teams got older. and you're left with this crop of talent that I don't even know how to situate in a rotation. It's unfortunate. The play-ins would be a success with this roster, but not to Stephen Curry, who's trying to win a 5th championship in the twilight of his career. This roster is not competitive enough to be around Steph Curry. They're not even worthy to share the floor. It's unfortunate that this is the scenario that Golden State, Monk Dunleavy, Joe Lacob, the front office, has put Stephen Curry in. Now, next, we got 2 more reasons why Steph should want out and demand a trade. But before we get into that, I want to get you guys hooked up with the freshest gear out there. Steph Curry Olympic merch. Could be the one and only time that you get it. He hasn't played in Olympics before. He's not going to play in one again. 2024 Paris Olympics is your chance to get dripped out in Steph Curry jerseys. Chatsports.com/CurryUSA to get yours today. They got the blue, they got the white, whatever you want to get dripped out in. Just go get your Steph Curry Team USA merch right now. Say it one more time, chatsports.com/CurryUSA. And if you didn't get that, I'll put that link in the comments and description of today's video to make it easy for you guys. Go get yourself some Steph Curry Team USA merch right now. My 4th reason as to why Stephen Curry should demand a trade from Golden State. There's nothing else left. You can't make a deal. There's no needle-moving trades, targets, players, disgruntled stars out there anymore. It's over. It's done. You missed on Paul George and Lauri Markkanen. Now there's no one out there that you can make a deal for, and you probably wouldn't even make the deal anyway because you're so enamored with Brandon Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga that makes you a contender. There's nothing out there. I mean, we've talked about a ton of players as far as, Kevin Durant, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jimmy Butler, Lauri Markkanen, Paul George. I mean, every single one of these guys has had personalized videos on this channel during the 2024 offseason. We've thought about making big splashes for all 5 of these guys, and Golden State hasn't bit. Now, to be fair, like Durant, Butler, those front offices have come out and said they're not trading those guys. Karl-Anthony Towns, Minnesota's looking really good right now, so they're probably not going to trade him. But to be fair, these guys were up for the taking, and Golden State just didn't make a big enough punch to go and get him. Now, Shams Charania has a little bit of insight as to what Golden State's plan is as far as heading into this season goes. He said the Warriors have 14 players under contract for next season and feel comfortable entering training camp and the regular season as currently constructed, team sources said, though they are expected to explore smaller-scale deals more actively than is typical in August and September. What do smaller scale moves do? You already made the smaller scale moves in the summer. You got Buddy Hield, you got DeAnthony Melton, you got Kyle Anderson. Those are marginal moves that you make when you have an established roster, an established pecking order when it comes to scoring options at the top, and you make those moves around the margins to put yourself over the edge and take yourself into real championship contention. The Dallas Mavericks did that this past season. They got P.J. Washington. They got Daniel Gafford. But there's one difference between the Dallas Mavericks making those deals then and the Golden State Warriors potentially making a deal this season. Golden State isn't Dallas. They're not even close. Dallas already had, well, obviously a top 3 player in the world, Luka Doncic. And then they had a second all-star who's also an insane scoring threat in Kyrie Irving. Golden State doesn't have that number 2. They let that number 2 walk. Now, I'm not saying he would have been good. It would have been actually atrocious if he was the number 2, Klay Thompson. But you don't have that established second scorer. I'm not so sure that Jonathan Kuminga is ready to become a shot creator at this point in his career. He's more of a downhill player at this point. Brandon Podziemski, are you gambling on him to be your secondary scoring option in year 2 of his NBA career at 6'4", not really an athlete, and didn't really have the scoring volume last year that signaled a jump to secondary scoring option? It's unfortunate that Golden State doesn't have that player, so making smaller scale deals is only going to jumble up your rotation even more. It's only going to add more B to B-, C+ players on the roster that you're going to have to figure out a minutes load for. So I'm very disappointed in Golden State's inability to get a trade done, and now they're left with no trades available. So it's very unfortunate for Stephen Curry. But if you guys have a name in mind, let me know who your guy is. Name a player that Golden State should trade for down in the comments section. I want to hear if you guys think there's any big swing moves that Golden State can make to keep Steph Curry in town and keep this roster competitive. Let me know down in the comments section. And my last and final reason why Steph Curry should want out. He could still contend for a title. There are teams out there that would be very happy to have Steph Curry on the roster right now. Stephen Curry, in my opinion, is still a top 5 talent in this league. You take one look at the guy, and defenses are gravitating towards him. Every time, all eyes are locked in on Steph Curry. And I'm going to show you them, but, do I even have to show you statistics as to why this guy's still top 5 in the league? He's 40% three-point shooting is a must every year, and it's funny that he won a championship in the only year that he didn't shoot 40% from three. 32 points per game a couple years ago, 30 points a game in 22-23. I mean, last year was a disaster for Golden State, and Steph still put up 26-5 on 40% three-point shooting and 45 from the field. This guy is unbelievable, and he wants to win in the twilight of his career. Here's what he had to say in an interview during the Paris Olympics here. He said, "I want to win. Let's put it this way. It's a long-winded way of saying if it's a situation where you're a bottom feeder and it's just because you want to stay there, I'd have a hard time with that. But I don't think that's going to be the reality." I don't know if Steph Curry's lying or not, but here is the reality. Golden State better play well enough to be in that situation that the Mavericks were in last season, where they're an 8 seed, they make these 2 big moves at the deadline, and now they're contending in the West. Because if they don't, this team very well could be a bottom feeder. And I'm not saying bottom feeder like 15th seed in the West, but 12th, 13th, 11th, missing the play-in is absolutely in the cards for this roster as the way it's constructed. And I think there's multiple destinations out there, and I'm thinking about making a video on Steph and Curry trade destinations. I mean, think about the pairing that he could have Victor Wembanyama at this time, trading him over to San Antonio, get all their draft picks for the next couple of years. I mean, I think he's talked about wanting to play with LeBron. I mean, take everything that the Lakers have. There's spots out there. Teams are going to want Stephen Curry, and if Golden State doesn't play well enough or put a roster around him soon enough, he's only got 2 years left on his contract, he could be asking out as early as next summer. But that might not happen. Stephen Curry has maintained this stance his entire life. Warrior for life. Do you think Steph Curry will retire as a Warrior? Let me know down in the comment section what you think. Will he ask out? Do you think he stays in Golden State for the remainder of his career? I want to hear from you. So to recap, why Stephen Curry should want out of Golden State? Well, they paid Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins big-time money to not really produce what Stephen Curry needs surrounding him on the roster. They let Klay Thompson walk. They let his longtime teammate, who has won multiple championships, 4 of them things, they let him walk. They let him go and said, best of luck with the rest of your career. They missed on big-time trade targets like Lauri Markkanen and Paul George, who they were discussing making deals with. Lauri Markkanen never got as far as we thought. Paul George got further than we thought. Neither one materialized. 0 needle-moving trades available. There's no disgruntled star out there. There's nobody that Golden State could go and acquire to make themselves a true contender in the West at this point. And Steph could contend for a title. There's teams out there that if Warriors called up and said, hey, we're looking to deal Steph, do you want him? I think 29 other GMs would say, absolutely, what's the price? So I think Stephen Curry should want out of Golden State. Am I a criminal for that? Maybe. But it's unfortunate that the Golden State front office has made me make this video and feel this way about Steph's current situation. That'll do it for today's video, Warriors Today. Subscribe for constant, up-to-the-date, up-to-the-second, up-to-the-minute Golden State Warriors news and updates. YouTube.com/WarriorsTV. We'll see you in the next one. Let's go Dubs.